Hello and welcome to Investors Platform. Today's guest is a pharmacist that has transitioned into becoming a full-time property investor in the Northeast. Singh, how are you doing today, mate?
Oh, cheers, Joe, mate. Yeah, I've been all right today. I think this has been a long time coming, to be honest.
Yeah, mate. Well, we started chatting on Instagram a few months ago, and we've had some really insightful conversations about property and where we want to get to in the future. So I think this would be really valuable for someone that's just wanted to learn a bit more about property and what you're doing in the Northeast as well. So how did you actually first get into property then?
So I believe that property's been in my mind for a long time. It's one of those things where when anyone talks about property, it's this think, there's a lot of money in property, it's a safe investment, it's where a lot of the millionaires and billionaires are into property. So I think the way I got into it is I believe that what I was doing at my time where, okay, working full time as a pharmacist, I believed, okay, I was making okay money, but I was working like a donkey almost. I believed that there was more to life than just working a 9 to 5, stuck in that way of, being a pharmacist and only being at that limit. So I just thought to myself, okay, I need a secondary income. So I started to invest into property. And yeah, now I'm slowly, I'm just weaning out of pharmacy now, and I believe that I've never looked back since.
That's right. Because pharmacy as a degree, it's ridiculously hard to actually attain, isn't it, really? You know, the years of experience that you need to actually have to get into the shoes of being a pharmacist. Um, did you always know that you wanted to get into property eventually, or was it like a stepping stone, or did you actually originally want to be a pharmacist? Like, what's the background behind that?
So pharmacy, so it's a 4 year uh, degree. It's a 4 year course at uni. And then you have a final fifth year, which is a pre-registration year. So it's like a training year. So it's 5 years of education altogether. And I believe that I would become, I would drive around in a sports car, I'd have a big house, and, I could look after my family with this degree. This is what I genuinely thought, that when someone's a pharmacist, they are, successful in a sense. When I got into the game and doing it for 3, 4 years, it just wasn't the case. I thought it was almost like I was in a bubble of my own. So once I got into pharmacy, once I became a pharmacist, I realized, okay, the money's not here, the funding's not here, and it's one of those industries where it's falling. So you've probably seen that, Boots are closing down, Lloyd's don't exist anymore, and a lot of pharmacies becoming online as well. So it's one of those things where I thought to myself, right, I need to change my strategy into how I make money. I need to gain another income. So when it came to getting into property, initially I didn't never thought I would get into property. This is even a year ago. I started actually property, I would say about 8, 9 months ago. That's when I properly
Wow.
started.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been an insane amount of growth in do you say 9 months?
Yeah, I would say um, I fully started in October, November last year.
Yeah, yeah. So before we jump into the property side of things, like I just wanted to go into a bit about, being a pharmacist and the network around you and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Were you surrounded by people that were talking about finances and bettering themselves, or was it kind of just a means to the end sort of thing?
I think in when you so in pharmacy, there's three different sectors. And if there's a pharmacist listening, they would probably understand this, or if whoever's in the medical field. So there's hospital, there's industrial, and there's community. So I used to work in the community pharmacy, such as your local Boots and such as your local Asda, your independent pharmacies, and I would probably give you your prescription, your antibiotics or whatever. And in those environments, it's obviously everyone is, most of the people are, working the 9 to 5s, and they're either older generation where they're looking to retire, or they're younger where they're the apprentices where they just want a weekend job, and they're looking to do other things. So my network when I was working in these different pharmacies is, I would probably say, not the most financially savvy. Now, with me being a locum pharmacist, that means I used to dot around to different pharmacy to pharmacy. So I was never stuck in one place.
Yeah, yeah.
But that helped me in other aspects, such as like social skills and communication skills, and basically like working with different people. However, the people who I was surrounded by didn't really care about money. They just wanted to, drink on the weekend and go out. They wanted to talk about is what they're having for tea that day. Now, I got a bit frustrated with that. So then I just needed to change, really.
Yeah, so you touched on the skills that you got from that as well, and I think that being a pharmacist, there's people put their life's trust in you to prescribe the right medication, right? So, do you think that on the back of your experience being a pharmacist, you've actually gained the experience to then go out and work with investors, deal with contractors, work with estate agents, and that sort of thing? Do you think that you're almost the communication skill side of things, do you think that's helped you in property?
I would say where I am today, I wouldn't be here without pharmacy. Now, a lot of people say, oh, don't go to uni, it's a scam. People say, oh, don't get a degree, it's a scam. Now, I can't really say that with myself because, the amount of growth that I've had within property, it's because of where I've come from. It's because of the skills I've gained from uni, from working as a pharmacist, and I've applied it to property. Now, what those skills would be is, like I said before, main thing is communication skills. If you can't talk to anyone, then I believe that you have failed in property. Because property is a people's business. If you can't talk to other people, then how are you supposed to negotiate? How are you supposed to finalize a deal? How are you supposed to raise finance if you can't talk to someone? I believe that when I was working in pharmacy, I was speaking to people who were, a lot older than me, even younger, like maybe when they were like when they were kids, up to teenagers and like elderly people as well. I think when I was talking to all these different types of people, from different cultures as well, I think, okay, that's a transferable skill into property. So when I go into estate agents, they could be old, young, white, black. They could, let's say my contractors could be from a different country, for example. It's how you deal with these type of people. And I think that this is why I've been quite, not smooth sailing, but definitely in a position where I can handle myself
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the game.
Go out and speak to people at network events, shake their hand, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we've touched on this before on Instagram, but I'd like to just talk about this on the pod as well, because you bought a £65,000 car. And
Yeah.
that, which is insane, really, isn't it? When you think about it. And so, what was the kind of? So, did you actually sell that car then to invest that into property?
So what basically happened was, so I thought I was like almost like top of the game, top dog, in my pharmacy career, making all this money and thinking, okay, let me splash all my money on a nice car. So I got myself an M4. I thought, okay, I think I wanted to show something, for myself about, okay, all the hard work that I've done. So, and then I think I told you this before. I just believe, okay, I've got this amazing car, and the only thing I got from it was a couple of compliments on at a petrol station. You
Yeah.
know, like a couple of lads saying, "Oh, nice car," or like maybe people are just like looking around, looking at the modifications, looking at the interior, stuff like that. But I didn't get anything from it. It was almost like, okay, it was almost like a release where, okay, I've made it to that point, but pharmacy could only get me to that point. I wanted to actually break that barrier. And I think, okay, I needed to step away from pharmacy, look into property. But then what I did with the car was I sold it and I bought a property with it.
Brilliant. Yeah. Because essentially you got into the game 9 months ago, but you had no property education. Is that right? So you didn't actually know anything about property. Is that fair to say?
Yes. So what actually happened was I had a conversation with my one of my good friends, actually. He's a dermatologist right now, and his name's Dalvir. He's from Newcastle, and he's the one who basically kickstarted my like property career. What he said to me was, you need to buy one property a year. And you can do anything in your life, just at least buy one property a year. That is the goal. And then I said to him, I was like, "Oh, how am I supposed to do that? I've just bought this car. There's a lot of running costs with the car, and I'm just working like a donkey in the pharmacy just to keep the car." And then he goes, "Sell it, sell the car and buy a property." And the way the way I'm the one who always takes action. So I said to him, "Safe." So I sold the car that month and I was doing viewings. I was watching videos on YouTube, and I bought a property like that same month.
Right. Well, so you literally sold your car and then bought a property the next month.
Yeah, the same month.
That's amazing. Well, so did you so just talk me through with that deal then, that first deal. How did that go?
Yeah, so with the first deal, I was doing viewings all over really in the northeast area, like Middlesbrough, Darlington, and it eventually ended up being in Hartlepool. Now, the way it occurred was I did about 5 viewings in Hartlepool, and then the agent said, "I've got this sixth viewing. Why don't you come have a look at that? It's on auction, but have a look anyway." I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll have a look." Like, look, I was just doing viewings all day. I didn't mind spending another 15, 20 minutes there. I had a look. It was decent, it was a little bit run down. And then I just looked on my phone while I was viewing it, and I looked at the comparables, and next door was sold for £130,000, whereas the one that I was looking at was on sale for 60,000. So I thought to myself, okay, there is some money here to be made.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just went home. I called the auction company and I said, "Right, I want this." They said, "Okay, put your best offer in." I said, "I'll put 70 in. I want it for 70." Then the auction company says, "That hasn't hit the reserve. If you can hit the reserve, we will take it off the market, and you can get it prior to going to auction." And bearing in mind, there was about 21 days or 28 days going left on the auction time. So, and then the agents already had viewings booked in the week after. So, and I thought to myself, okay, this is now or never. I've sold my car. I've got money in the bank. I'm ready. So then that's what I did. I said, "Yeah, I'll get it for 75, which hits the reserve, and it's recently just been let out now."
Excellent. So did you buy that property cash then, or did you?
So what that was I got a mortgage on that because there was a 56-day completion. Now a lot of people say that, "Oh, you can't get a mortgage on a BRR," which is not necessarily true. Now the way I did it, because I knew it was a 56-day completion. At the time, I didn't know what a bridge was because my property education was very low at the time. So the only thing I thought was cash or mortgage. Now, I didn't want to use I didn't want to use all of my cash into the purchase because I also needed the cash for the refurb as well. So that's why I did it on a mortgage, managed to complete within 56 days. I did the refurb within 3 months, and then it's let out now.
So what did the figures look like in terms of the whole project then for that first deal? So you bought it for 75.
Bought it for 75, £6,000 auction fee because I got it through I Am Sold. 25,500 for the refurb, and end GDV would be between 135 and 140. So the return on capital employed would be roughly between 35% and 40%. It's currently let out at 795 a month in Hartlepool, which is breaking street records.
I think that is nationwide as well. I mean, in my city, Lincoln, it seems to go up every month.
Yeah.
So, So can you just break down for me like the refurb costs, and because it's interesting to see from your perspective how much everything costs in the northeast.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the way with the refurb cost, I got 5 or 6 quotes. Okay. And it was all roughly between 20,000 and 35 for, and what I got within my 25,500, what I got was full plaster, got a new kitchen, new bathroom, the addition of a new toilet, a full rewire, a garden clean and jet wash, and obviously all the flooring and everything, all the decorating as well. I also painted the outside as well because originally it was just pebble dash. So I painted the outside and just made it give that extra curb appeal. So I think in my eyes, the only downside of my refurb is that when I originally got the quote, the rewire wasn't included in the original quote, and then the builders found out that we needed a full rewire afterwards, which really annoyed me at the time. But in a sense, it just like you can't really, sometimes stuff like this happens in property. So I think we just have to move past it.
It's interesting how you said that you just paid the one-off £25,000 or to the main contractor. Was there any reason behind that? Like in terms of like, because you could get individual trades, can't you, to actually come in and do the job and project manager oversee it. Was there any reason that you wanted just a main contractor on site just to do the work, or?
Yeah, so my experience from individual trades, and I believe with because obviously I've done bits around the house, I know I'm around like a lot of property guys, and when watching YouTubers and different property educators, most of them say get one contractor and let him do everything. Getting individual trades, I believe, would be more hassle, more time consuming. And I just believe that I didn't have the knowledge at the time to actually project manage it as well. Now, with it being my first project, I believe that just giving it to that one main contractor, him employing all the subcontractors would just make things quite easier. And I was like still working odd days here and there as a pharmacist. So I think getting individual trades, there could be a disadvantage to it, where let's say if you employ a strip out team and then you've got the electrician going in, but the electrician says he can't do 1 week, he has to do the next week. So it's been delayed 1 week. So it's almost like you are relying on each individual trade to be on time, on schedule. And if one trade is late, that pushes the next trades as well. And this may cause a bit of hassle for the other tradesmen as well. So I believe that, okay, just get one contractor, pay them in individual payment schedules, and then just let them deal with it. Now, if there is, let's say, a rewire that needs doing, they've got electricians within house and they'll just sort out the problem.
Yeah, you mentioned you got a few quotes there as well. Was there because essentially you got three, did you say you got three quotes in the end?
I got 5 or 6 quotes. I
Right,
got
yeah.
5 or 6 quotes for this job. And the way I got it was I just used sites like Checker Trade and My Builder. So I made them a spec sheet about what needs doing. So in the spec sheet, it would be the floor plan, and then it would list the 3 bedrooms, the kitchen, the bathroom, the garden, and what needs doing. So for example, needs a replaster, needs spotlights, it needs a new door, needs new skirting, new architraves, etc. And then each room's all listed, and then I would send the same spec sheet to all 5 or 6 contractors. So when they give me a price, it would be according to the same spec sheet. So it
Yeah,
makes sense to compare it as well.
it makes a lot of sense. So in terms of the actual build itself, so did you pay for individual parts of the process, or did you pay for a lump sum for the build?
So I paid the materials up front, okay. And the rest of the money, it was just in every 2 or 3 week blocks. So I paid like chunks at a time. So then my builders told me, okay, we've done X, Y, and Z. So it would cost 2.5 grand. The week after, they did maybe another part of the project, which maybe only cost £1,000. So within the 3 months, um, I paid them every 2 or 3 weeks, and then at the end, I had a lump sum of around £2 or £3,000. So then it came to the snagging process. So because with me being in the Northeast and me being so close to the project anyway, I was there every Sunday. I was there every Sunday and just looking around, taking pictures, taking videos, and then just having a mental note for myself. And then let's say if they said, "Oh, we've done the bathroom," but I went on a Sunday and the bathroom wasn't done, I would mention it to the builder. And then obviously we'd just go back and forth and on text messages or email, and then just kind of correspond that way. Most of the time, it was a pretty smooth process, really, with my first full refurb.
So did they hit the actual quote figure, or did they go over it at all?
So originally the quote was around 20,000, and then at the end, I paid a total of 25 and a half. So to answer that question, no, they didn't hit it.
Yeah.
But the reason why they didn't hit it is because it needed extra plastering and it needed a full rewire. So about 3 grand for the rewire, an extra 2.5 for the plastering.
So do you think that you'll keep a contingency going forward for bigger projects and that sort of thing? Because obviously I assume you'll be using the same tool trades and that sort of thing, will you, going forward? Or would we use different trades?
Yeah, so even though these guys they went over on what they originally quoted, I believe that it shouldn't put you off.
Mm.
Now, I'll give you an example. So they quoted me 1,900 for a new kitchen. Okay. They came back to me with a 2,800 pound quick kitchen. I questioned it. I said, you promised me 1,900. In the quote, it says 28. So then they said, okay, let me go back and see if I can get a better quote for you. So then they came back with a 2,300 quote. I was like, okay, that's a bit better, but it's still not what you quoted. Then they said, okay, we will pay the difference. We will pay the difference of £400 because obviously we promised you 1,900, but obviously the kitchens came in at 2,300, and that's what Howdens have quoted. So they paid the difference. Now, this this small gesture, even though it's £400 out of the whole project, this small gesture means a lot to me.
Hmm.
And obviously it shows a lot of character to the of the builders as well. So I believe that okay, these guys, they've got good character, they're trustworthy, they're loyal, they've done a great job on the full refurb, it's a very high quality refurb. And they have other experience as well, like with flat conversions and HMO conversions. So they're a good team to have like close like with me. But I think the main thing is it's like if you get along with someone, that is the main thing. If they are a little bit over schedule, that's fine. If you spend a little bit more money, I feel like that's fine as well. I think at the end of the day, it's about character and trust as well. If they're a good person at the end of the day, and you guys, you guys can form that power team, I think you should always consider these points as well.
So that was a pretty successful BRR deal, the first one you've done, really. So the next step was then to get the next project underway. So what was that one then?
So yeah, my next project was a property in Sunderland. Okay, which this was actually it's a property in the next to the hospital in Sunderland, Sunderland Royal. So which is housing NHS workers. So with that one, that was a quick refurb. Didn't need much to it. But because I went to uni in Sunderland and I knew the area very well, being there 4 or 5 years, I just believe, right, okay, this could be a good deal. So I went along with it. And yeah, that's currently tenanted with like 3 or 4 NHS workers in the same building. It's not exactly a HMO because it's all under the same AST. But yeah, that's been quite successful as well.
So what are the figures like on that one then, is for the second project?
So 110 purchase price, 15 refurb, and I haven't revalued this one yet. But I'm projecting it to be about 160, 170. And the rent on that is quite high actually. It's about 950, no, 975.
Wow. Okay. So that was your second BRR deal then.
Yeah.
Do you feel like after that point, because I know you mentioned on Instagram you've been doing SA projects as well. Did you
Yeah.
want to go away from BRR, or what was the kind of thinking going into SA? Because it sounds to me as though you're on the roll with BRRs.
Yeah, well, when it comes to BRRs, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it with someone else. So with the Sunderland one, well, that one was like a partnership with my friend, because originally it was his house that he used to live in. So that was very simple for me and him because with me being in the property space and with me helping him with my original first project, I just believe that okay, I've got this knowledge now, let's do it again. Now, in terms of with SA, I think it's quite a popular topic in on Instagram, on YouTube, people making 5, 10, 20,000 pound a month doing rent to rent essays. I just thought that was quite good. I when I read these captions, when I read these thumbnails, I was like, okay, I want a part of this. And let me see if this is for me. So I went to a course, Samuel Leeds in London. He does a rent to rent course. So I had all of his material, had all of his videos, and I used those videos to, okay, let's kickstart this rent to rent. And the main reason why I did it is just for cash flow purposes. And out of most people, because you're very experienced in BRR buy to lets, is that the profit on a buy to let is probably between 200 to 300 pound a month. That's the main.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But with SAs, the profit's up to £1,000, and you don't have to put a lot of money in. Now, so I looked at these deals and these courses and these videos and Instagram posts, and I thought, okay, I want a piece of the pie here.
Mm.
So I went away. It took me 2.5 months to get my first rent to rent. Okay. There was a lot of phone calls, lots of rejections, lots of people saying, "Oh, we don't do company lets," which a lot if whoever's listening who does rent to rent essays, they'd understand. It's one of those things where agents and landlords don't understand what you're doing or they don't like it because there's been other people in the space that have done a really bad job. Now, I managed to get one through a site called Open Rent. So I
Mm.
went directly to the landlord, viewed it with him, and I told him about what my strategy is. I told him what I'm doing, just to be quite straight up, be honest with him. And he liked the idea. He liked the idea of guaranteed rent. He liked the idea of, me maintaining his property better than most people would, and basically maintaining it as a show home. So I actually showed him my network's essays at the time. So not my own essays, just my friends' essays that I've done that are quite popular in their respective areas. And then he really liked how they were staged. So I said to him, I was like, look, I will stage it the same way. I will paint it, I will change the carpet, I will change the lighting. Just hand over the keys to me, and I'll promise you that, look, I will look after it as if it's my own. So I've had this rent to rent SA in Newcastle now. It's coming up to 2 months now. So, and it's been successful so far, and I really like it.
So for someone who might be listening, might want to get into property but don't have the means of the funds, for example, but want to look into getting into rent to rent,
Yeah.
can you give some advice of how they could go about getting a rent to rent deal?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to rent, I think the first thing is being educated on how rent to rent actually works. Now, you need to get the right contracts in place. You need to set up a company, which has the correct SIP code that deals with serviced accommodation. And you need to also understand how to talk to agents or landlords on how to set up a rent to rent. Now, I know a very good contact in Lincoln who is amazing and has got up to above 20, 30 units of rent to rent essays in Lincoln, which is
Wow.
where you're from.
Yeah, my area.
And he's taught me a lot as well. So I speak to him on the phone now and again, and just basically building your network within the rent to rent essay space and understand all the caveats. Now, it's not as easy as renting it from a landlord and then putting it on Airbnb and Booking.com. It's not as easy as that because you need to understand pricing, you need to understand occupation, occupancy rate, you need to understand staging, you need to understand like bills and cash flow, because at the end of the day, this is not a property strategy. I believe it's a business. This is a whole new business.
Yeah, so I think it'll be useful to know the numbers, to know what actually is a good deal. Because if, say, for example, you get an essay that doesn't have the correct occupancy rate, for example, you're going to be losing money, aren't you? Because you're guaranteeing to this landlord, you're giving him X amount of money. So is there any strategy that you took to actually make sure that you're giving the landlord the right amount of money to make sure you can make some profit on top as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the way you do it is you reverse engineer it. So you look at a property and you say to yourself, I want to make £1,000 a month.
Hmm.
Okay. Then you reverse it. So you look at £1,000 profit, then you minus your bills. So let's say roughly about £200 to £300, which includes Wi-Fi, which includes maybe council tax. It also includes any energy bills as well. And then you also reduce the rent, you reduce any running costs, monthly running costs, okay? And then you see, okay, how much am I going to be charging per night to get to that £1,000, right? And the way it works is you cannot rely on these 1 or 2 night booking stays, because in any area, I would say on average, let's say on a weekend, it would be between £100 to £200 a night. But average rent, and especially in the northeast, the average rent is up to 800 to 1500. So the way I do it is that I have a deal analyzer, I punch in all my numbers, and I say to myself, okay, if my property is at 50% occupancy, I should be breaking even. If at 50% I'm breaking even, I'd be happy. And now the average occupancy across the UK is around 65 to 70%. That's the average occupancy. So if you're breaking even at 50, which means it covers all the running costs and the rent, then you should be happy. But I think going back to BRR versus SA, I think with BRR, so with one of the deals, I've put in 55,000 pound, and my return on capital employed would be about 35 to 40%. However, with SA, I've put in maybe about between 5 to 10,000, which is including rent and staging, but I would be making that 5 to 10,000 pound back in 5 or 6, 7 months. So the return on capital employed in 5 to 6 to 7 months is infinite. Whereas with BRR, it's going to take you a long time to make that £55,000 back.
Of course. You mentioned SA is more of a business than a property strategy. Are you looking at ways to automate your SA business now?
Yeah, so there is multiple ways to automate it now. I think obviously employing cleaners where you can attach them to something called a channel manager. So a channel manager will connect all of your online travel agents all to one site, and then you can connect your cleaner to this site, and she can see who's booking it, who's checking in and who's checking out, so she can go there and clean it whenever needs. And then when it comes to Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo, and Expedia, and with it all being under one site, it will deter any it would reduce any risk of double bookings as well. And then when you have your own channel manager, there's options within there that you can automate your messages as well. So let's say, Joe, you booked a one-night stay for this weekend. Then the day before, you will get a welcome message, be like, "Hi, Joe. Please could you fill in the IDs, the security deposit, and please could you sign the rental agreement? And here are the check-in details. Hope you have a nice stay." And then as soon as you check out, there will be another automated message like, "Hope you've had a nice stay, Joe. If there's any feedback, please let me know. And I'd really appreciate a 5-star review as well." And that's why I believe it's that's why I believe it's not a property business, but it's more of a let me start again. That's why I believe it's not a property strategy, but more of a business, because you're almost a cleaner, you're a property manager, you're a receptionist, you are a security guard. If something goes wrong, you have to kick them out somehow. And I believe, look, you're also an interior designer, because the staging is the biggest part of the photography, the pictures. So it's almost like a thumbnail. When you're making your YouTube videos, you want to make a nice thumbnail.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
same thing with Airbnb.
Is it a lot to do with the algorithm as well? You know, if your, say for example, your listing is poor, for example, it will get pushed right down to the bottom. So is that correct with Airbnb and Booking.com with the algorithm? And
Yeah, so let's say I know with Airbnb and Booking.com, they really promote some add-ons that they have. So Big Booking.com has a Genius partner program. So if you join the Genius partner program, it will push your listing to the top. If you add in promotional discounts, so for example, 15% for anyone who books through the mobile or whatever, then it will push it to the top, and then it will promote it on the booking.com website. Same with Airbnb. If you become a super host, it will push it to the top. And the way to get a Genius program with booking.com and a super host with Airbnb is getting top reviews. Reviews, if you get I think it's a 4.7 star average rating, no, sorry, 4.8 star average rating on Airbnb or above, you will become a super host. But if it's less than that, that title is removed.
that's only two guests, isn't it, really, in the grand scheme of things? If you're just starting out, two
Yeah.
guests can completely ruin your chance of getting future bookings, it sounds.
Yeah, so and the way I've reduced any risk of me getting 4 star review rather than sorry, the way I've like systemized it is I've made a welcome pack. My messages, I've been really personal with the messages, and I also call them as well. So let's go back to the example. If you're going to come this weekend to Newcastle, right, which I recommend you should, okay,
Yeah.
um, I will call you maybe a day or two before you checking in, and I'll say, "Oh, hey, Joe, I'm just a host at the apartment that you've booked in Newcastle. Just want to double check that you're coming this Saturday. Is there anything that you need? Do you need any milk or sugar, tea? Do you need any amenities that are in the property? Just making sure that you're all comfortable. Is there any particular reason why you're coming to Newcastle? Is it for business or is it for leisure? Then I try and engage uh, how I could help them. So, for example, if you're coming for leisure, I will recommend the best restaurants and the best activities. If you're coming for business, then I'd understand that. Okay, I'll let you be. I won't disturb you as much, and I'll just make sure that you've got the essentials in there, and them to have my number as well. So okay, you can have my business number, and if there is any issues, you can always give us a text or give us a call. And it's almost like, okay, this guy is looking out for me, and
Yeah.
I can truly and honestly say I've had 10 star reviews on all platforms.
Well, that's a bespoke service, isn't it? And I think that I've never gone to an Airbnb, for example, where someone's actually rang me up and actually, because that's going above and beyond, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, so in terms of like the future for SA and that sort of thing, are you going to stick to rent, or do you think that that you're just going to keep the one for now?
So my my goal is not to have a portfolio of rent to rents. My goal is to have a portfolio of buy to lets and HMOs. That's my goal. With this rent to rent strategy and this SA, I almost did it to prove to myself that I could do it.
Mm.
Now, I believe that it's doing well so far. It is the summer months, so the occupancy is high right now. I don't know what will happen in the winter. Now, we will see. When it comes to SA, there are strategies where you can 100% optimize your occupancy rate in the winter months by, employing contractors in your SAs. However, because I'm so because I'm so interested and my main goal is to, just grow my own portfolio, I think I'm just going to go full steam ahead into buying property. Now, I always say this to myself and other essay guys as well. It's a good thing that they laugh about what I'm about to say, because it could be a little bit offensive. What I say is that you can never pass down your rent to rents to your kids. Like,
Mm.
it just won't work. What you can pass down is your properties that you've bought and you own. So in my head, I'm like looking at the long term.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight into it actually, because it's a good cash flow in, like you said, it's very good cash flow, and but you'll never own it, right? So your next project, you've recently just secured an auction project, is that right?
That's right,
Is
yes.
that so that's a fourth deal now in 9 months,
Yeah. So yeah.
isn't it? Really, when you think when you put that into perspective, that is mental.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I think it's all about taking action.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think auction has really helped me in growing so fast. Now, if anyone wants to learn how to grow so fast, I think it's all about like completing, like in the most efficient way possible. And like two of my projects so far has been through auction, and that's why it's almost been a rapid process for me. Now, with my next purchase, it's a 28-day completion. I'm hoping to get the keys next month, and yeah, it's gonna be a bigger project than I've done before.
Yeah, yeah. So, how are you actually financing this deal then?
This one's a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
You've
one's a
done a bit
bridge.
of education, you've learned a bit more about it, and so you're going to
Exactly.
go through a bridge this time. So you're able to complete within 28 days with your bridging. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So I'm using a bridge called Together Finance or Together Money, whatever it's called. But they have been on it. They've been absolutely amazing. They've dealt with auction purchases before, and the reason why they are so quick and so good is because they don't actually need to go to the property and see it. Now, a lot of bridges and a lot of lenders need to see the property itself and just value it. But however, with Together, they can just do a desktop valuation, and that's why the funds can be released so quickly. Um, so yeah, I attended the viewing for this next project on the 29th of May. The auction date was on the 7th of June. Bought it on the 7th of June, completing hopefully next week on the 5th of July. I'll get the keys officially. The work will start that day as well because my builders are on it. Having a good power team, they'll be there doing the strip out on the first day, which is what you want. And then I'm hoping that it will be completed in the next 3 to 4 months. With it being a bigger project, it might be a little bit longer. And then hoping to get it rented in October or end of October or start of November.
Brilliant. So let's talk figures then on this deal then. So what was the actual purchase price for this one?
Yeah, so it was 131,000 at auction. It the auction fees are £3,000. The refurb would be roughly around 60,000. Now, this is not confirmed just because I'm still going through the floor plans now, so I don't know whether I want en suites. By the way, this is a HMO project, so if you haven't gathered already, so it's a 3-bed converting into a 6-bed HMO in Newcastle. So obviously with these type of projects, you need to figure out, if you want en suites in each of the rooms, obviously you need a full rewire, you want to make sure all the plugs are in the right places, and making sure that there is enough like hot water, a tank, a boiler, something that's really efficient for all the 6 bedrooms, which we can get into a little bit later. But I think the refurb would be roughly around 60,000. And the end value, now on a commercial valuation, it would be between £250,000 to £297,000 on a commercial val. And 250 is being conservative. That would be each room rented for about £500. But I know that it's 1 mile from the centre. It's next to 2 hospitals. It's in a non-Article 4 area, and it would have en suites. So I believe that it could touch the higher valuation of 297,000.
Yeah, brilliant. Just before we go into the nuances of HMOs and the planning side of things and everything like that, because I want to definitely talk to you about that. But I wanted to touch on the auction buying process, because you've now bought 2 properties through auction now.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what are the nuances in terms of buying through an auction, and how does it differ? And what is there any bits of tips that you can give to people looking to buy a property through auction?
Yeah, I think with auctions, I believe that people shouldn't be scared of it. I think if you have the right people around you, whether they are property investors, solicitors, brokers, builders, I believe that you can definitely buy a property through auction and complete and be successful within it. Now I'll tell you why. So every auction property has a legal pack. Now, that is probably the most important part of an auction property. If you don't read the legal pack and you've bought it, you've just screwed yourself over, because within the legal pack, it will tell you what restrictions it may has, if it's a leasehold, if it's a freehold, if there are certain problems with the property, whether it's structural or whether if there's any let's say conservation type restrictions around the area. Let's say there's something in the legal pack called special conditions. Now, within the special conditions, it will tell you how many days you have to complete. So now roughly it's about 28 days. Now it could be 14, it could be 7. So, but if you don't read that bit, it's going to be really hard in the future. Let's say if you find out after you bought it. It also, in the special conditions, it could also tell you if there's any, let's say restrictions on the property. So, for example, if you can't extend it, if you can't change it to a HMO, for example. Now, within the legal pack, this will be almost like your Bible for that property. Now, if you're not experienced with reading legal packs, this is why your power team comes into play. You can give your legal pack to your solicitor. They will probably charge you for it. Or if you have a good relationship with the solicitor, then maybe not. So you can give it to them and they could read it. You can also give it to your broker. You can also give it to other property investors who have bought from auctions. Now, with me, I have dealt with 4 auction companies before buying 2. So one was I Am Sold, one was Pattinson's, one was Sarah Mains, and one was Auction House Northeast. Now I have went to these auction what you call like online. Like I went to them. And I've never been to an in-house auction with the paddles and stuff. I've only done online auctions. So the more you look into auctions, the more you can read different legal packs, and you can almost realize, okay, where are the good deals? Now, there's another point within the special conditions. It will also tell you any additional fees you might pay. So some auction packs, it say you might have to pay for the seller's solicitor's fees. Okay, so that's 3. Let's say the auction fee is 3K. You might have to pay another 3K for the seller's fees.
Yeah.
They could also tell you that you might have to pay for any additional fees. So, for example, like a buyer's premium. Okay, so it'll all tell you the fees inside. Now, this is a bit of a auction hack, which I've realized from looking at all these different legal packs. Most of the auction packs have the fees in numbers with a pound sign. So what I do, I control F, which is control find, the pound sign, and then you could just read all the fees like very quickly through the PDF document. But these days, some auction companies have removed the pound sign and have written the cost in words.
Mhm.
So there's no numbers in the
Yeah,
PDF. So this is how they catch you out.
right.
So I'd recommend people to make sure you read the legal pack. That
So do
is one
you,
of the main points.
so do you think that that's the reason most people are scared of buying from auction then?
Yeah, I think that's
What is the mindset behind being like against buying through auction? What do you think it is?
I think one of them is the fear of the unknown. Now, some of the auction properties, there's a reason why it's on auction. Now, there's three D's in property where why it might be on so cheap and such a good deal in the auction house. So I call it the three Ds. So it's either death, divorce, or debt. So with these 3 points, there could be a reason of why it's on for so cheap, like almost like a below market value property. Um, so when you read the legal pack and when you do your own due diligence, you'll find out whether, okay, there might be structural problems or what there might be a search that's missing in the legal pack, or there might be a ridiculous £15,000 fee that you might have to pay. Now, all these things could be mitigated by your power team. So I've told you regarding the legal pack, you give it to your solicitor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one person.
Mm.
Let's say if there's any structural or building issues, that's why you've got your builders. When you view the property, you view it with your builders. So that's what I've done. I've got a good team now. I'm like, right, let's view it together. They will point out some things, and then I could price up my refurb as well while they're there. Let's say if you've got a good structural engineer, you can take them round as well if there's any structural issues. And I think it all comes down to, okay, building that confidence up. So with me, I might not be the best at, handiwork, or might not be the best at reading legal packs, but what I am the best at is finding good deals and taking action, but I've got a good team behind me that gives me the confidence within auctions.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice for people that are literally just a bit unsure about auctions, but they want to buy them, but they're a bit unsure. But it's just getting the right people behind you, like you say.
Yeah, I think most people in auctions, they look at the price and they think, oh, it's a banging deal. But remember, um, there's reduced competition in auctions because not a lot of people are fond of it. Not many people are as confident as, as investors such as you and I. And I believe that when you're there, you just have your property investor head on and just think of the numbers. Now, there's a trick in auctions where you can do a proxy bid, which means that you put a max bid on, and then it will bid for you automatically to that max bid. Now, if you get outbid, then that's fine. You can walk away because that was your max bid with all your numbers involved. If it goes above that, then that means it's not a good deal for you. It hasn't worked out. Now, with my last property, my proxy bid was 131. So I put 131 as my max bid. And the reason why I did 131 instead of 130 is because most people work in fives or tens. But I put 131, and that's why I won, because the second person put 130 as their final bid. So and I beat him by 1 grand.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, okay, it's a psychological hack here.
Of course. Yeah. So you're now moving into HMOs. So you've done BRR single lets, you've done SA, and now you're moving into HMO. So I feel like the HMO side of things, you have to know what you're doing in terms of like the planning side of everything like that. So have you got some education to actually get into HMOs then?
So yes, I think with HMOs, it's probably the one strategy I've been tinkering with since I started back in November. I think a strategy that you can buy, which I like buying, okay, and there is increased cash flow, so so it's better than buy to let, it's better than single family buy to let, and there's that capital appreciation as well. So I think HMOs ticks all the boxes. Now, I'm I'm under mentorship of people who have done HMOs. I watch a lot of people on YouTube and follow a lot of people on Instagram and ask as many questions as possible who have done HMOs in the past. And obviously when you go to these networking events, you can see the level of expertise when it comes to HMOs. Now, whether it's professional HMOs, whether it's social housing HMOs, or whether it's supported living HMOs as well. I think as soon as you get out there and start learning about it, it just opens up a lot of doors. And I believe that HMOs would probably be my long-term strategy. So this is my first of many.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. So can you talk me through this deal then in terms of like the actual due diligence on the property, making sure the property's in the right area to make sure you can actually convert it to a 6 bed?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing I look for if it's in a non-Article 4 area. So what Article 4 means is that a property in this specific area cannot be converted into a HMO under permitted development. That means that you need to go through planning to get it converted. Okay. So that doesn't mean you can't convert it into HMO. It just means that planning that you have to go through the council. It may take a lot longer and it could be rejected as well because the council has restricted the amount of HMOs in these Article 4 areas. So the first thing I did was to make sure that I'm investing in a non-Article 4 area. That's the very first thing. The second thing is I look at the location of where this property actually is. So what's it next to? Is it next to a university, which my property is, next to Newcastle University and next to Northumbria? Is it next to any hospitals, which it is? It's next to 2 RVI and the Newcastle General Hospital. And is it next to any shops and city centres and towns, which it also is, yeah. So that ticks all the boxes there. The third thing I look at is the size of the property. Now, a rough guide would be something that's above, let's say, 100 square meters. Something around 100 square meters could comfortably get you a 5-bed HMO. Now, this is rough numbers because each council has its very specific room sizes. So with my council, it is 6.51 square meters per room. Now, if each room can be 6.51 square meters for a single person, then that is HMO compliant. Now, the due diligence that I did with this one, I had a look around. I knew it couldn't be a single let family buy to let because the purchase price was just too high and the yield just wasn't matching up. I believe that there are better yields elsewhere. However, I noticed that okay, these are quite big Victorian style rooms, higher ceilings, bigger windows, double rooms. I thought to myself, okay, this could be a HMO. So I mapped it out with a laser measure, which you can probably buy from Amazon, and mapped out all the room sizes. I had a quick peek in the loft as well. I was like, okay, this could be a room.
Yeah.
So I had this going into my mind when going into the auction house. I was like, okay, the max I want to bid is 131. Refurb would roughly be about 60, and then let's go for it. I mean, it's all about taking action. And yeah, I'm excited to start this next one.
Yeah, I'm interested to follow it. To be fair, I think it'll be a really interesting story. I'm hoping you're going to document the whole journey through it as well.
Yeah, I will. I will. Yes.
Nice, man. What so in terms of other research and everything like that, in terms of like getting the right tenant and stuff like that, how will you actually find your tenants for your HMO? Because with HMOs you can get ones with en suites that are kind of self-contained as such. Do you think you'll do that, or do you think you're gonna have more of a community-based HMO?
Yeah, so I think the really good thing about this specific property is that there's a lot of exit strategies. Now, I'm already in talks with Serco, which is a social housing group in the Northeast. I'm already in talks with the NHS guys at the two hospitals nearby. Now, with me being a pharmacist and me knowing the doctors and the consultants in these hospitals, they've put me in contact with some people that house the nurses in these areas. Now, I'm getting all this information now, even before I've got the keys, even before I've started the refurb, because in about 3 4 months time, it'll be just quick and easy. Now, going back to the question regarding en suites, now it all depends on who I will get as an end user. Now, I'll give you an example. So with social housing, if I'm housing asylum seekers or people who are a little bit vulnerable, I believe that it doesn't need to be the highest of specs and it doesn't need to be each room to have an ensuite. Now, this is not because they don't deserve it, which they 100% do. It's just in terms of the housing providers standards. Though we need to meet those standards for them to take on the property. Now, sometimes they say, right, it needs to be all white canvas, very basic, and we will take it off your hands, which is fine for me. That's if they do want it. With professionals, so for example, the NHS workers, they want a high spec, they want en suites, they want
Yeah,
kitchenettes.
yeah,
So this is why I'm doing all the due diligence now.
yeah.
Then I will tell the builders what I want
Yeah.
after I've got it in place.
So, Guru, I know you've been in talks with architects this morning in regards to a new floor plan. Would you be able
Yeah,
to show it for people who actually watch this on YouTube? I know if you're listening to this on Spotify, you won't be able to hear it, but
yeah. So I will show you. Can you see this?
yes, can see it. Yeah,
So this is what it looks like after the architect has drawn it up. So if you can see there, this would be bedroom one. So you would walk in through those doors. That would be bedroom one. Then that would be the communal space, and that would be bedroom two.
yeah.
Then on the second floor, there are three bedrooms there with a communal bathroom.
Hmm.
And then in the final room would be the top floor, which would also have a ensuite with an added Velux. So this is what it looks like so far. And originally, what the original floor plan was just these two. So I'm adding this whole section here, and I'm also adding all these en suites here as well. So I can send this to you like on email, or you can just put it
Yeah,
on the screen if
of
you'd like.
course. Yeah, yeah, of course. That would be really good. No, that looks amazing. So I'm interested to learn a bit more because I know you've been researching a lot of social housing and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Can you talk a bit about social housing essentially instead of going through the HMO route and getting professionals or students?
Yeah. I think with social housing, it's been pretty much a buzzword these days. Now, a lot of people talk about it as if it's the next best thing, but there's a lot of caveats with social housing. So this is why I will always do my due diligence beforehand before I go into any strategy. With social housing, there's obviously all these many housing providers that are guaranteeing the rent, are providing X amount per month for X amount of people. But people need to understand that there's been a lot of companies and housing providers that are going bust because they are promising all these guaranteed rents, but they're not delivering. Now, this is one of the not, I wouldn't say it shouldn't put you off, but you need to do your due diligence with the housing provider. Now, I'm going to be dealing with, hopefully, going to be dealing with Serco. So Serco is a very, very big company. Same with Mears as well. So these two housing providers, they may charge me an LHA rate, right? So this might be a little bit lower than what the market would give me. However, it would be a fixed term contract for, for example, 5 years, and I would get guaranteed rent. They would look after the maintenance. They would look after the bills. And it's almost like they are rent to renting it from me. In my opinion, it's a very good strategy if you want stress-free and hands-free HMOs. However, I'm in a stage where I'm in the growth stage. I'm happy to take on the stress. I'm happy to take on all the problems because I'm in that element. I'm in that ambitious stage now. So
Yeah.
I don't really want the lower income. I want the higher income, but I'm ready to take on the headaches as well. That's me personally.
So in the next 9 months from now, and the next 5 years, 10 years from now, where do you expect yourself to be, and what sort of goals are you set for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I think my personal goals is it's all dependent on lifestyle. I would like my lifestyle to look a certain way. So whether it's location freedom, time freedom, and financially free. Now, I don't mind the headaches and stress now. And I don't mind breaking my back over it. But when I look at the long-term effects, and when I look at being a pharmacist, looking at elderly people dealing with problems day in day out, I think I'm a bit of a health freak when it comes to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I always look at it with, okay, I want to have maybe between 50 to 100 properties under my name in the next 4 years, right? And the way I do that is just continuing to buy, continuing to raise finance, and continuing to take action. Now, my friend, who I mentioned earlier, who told me to sell my M4 and buy one property a year, now I'm on track to hopefully buying 4 or 5 this year. Now, if I continue to do that, I'll get there in no time. But it's all about mindset. So it's like, okay, I don't want the one, I want the 5. I don't want one HMO, I want 5. It's almost like what Grant Cardone says, where you 10x everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say if you want to do 10 viewings a month, right? It's not good enough. 10x the amount of viewings you do, and then you will see the results come after that. You will see that, okay, you can source X amount of deals in the month. You can also buy X amount of deals in the month because you are 10xing the amount of viewings that you're doing. I just believe that if everything that you do, you put all your time and effort and energy into it, it just comes back tenfold as well.
We talk a lot about accountability and also the fact of, practical implementation. So 50 to 100 properties, how are you going to do it, man? Like, just talk me through it. And do you think that you're going to be marketing to get investors' monies on board, or?
Yeah, so the way I do it is making sure I do it with myself and with my own money first, getting that credibility. As soon as I've got my own credibility, which I don't think I'm credible yet, I just believe that, okay, I'm still getting into the game, I'm still in my growth phase, and I want to gain the skills and experience with myself and then pitch what I'm doing to other people. Now, I've already done a talk in the Property X community about auctions, about what I've done so far. I'm also planning on talking at the hospitals that I mentioned earlier, to in front of doctors and nurses and other pharmacists alike, because with me having links in these hospitals, and because most of them are, you know, they might have a little bit of money behind them in their bank accounts, but they're just not financially literate. My plan is to go into these places, tell them that, look, I'm a pharmacist just like one of you guys. I'm in the NHS just like you guys, but I'm looking outside the box now, and I believe that you guys should too.
Yeah.
It's my goal is to get other professionals on my side. So there is a trick to raising finance, which is what one of my mentors taught me, Justin. He says that write down the list of people that you know around your circle and write down how much you think they have in their bank, roughly how much you think. Then you start to realize that there is a lot of money around you, whether it's friends, family, cousins, whoever. And then you could pitch to these people about, okay, what you've done so far. So I believe, look, if you've done BRR, buy-to-lets, HMOs, essays in the past, you have a look and you show what you're doing on social media, like you and I are doing, and you have a bit of social proof as well. I think it's really easy to raise finance after that.
Mate, really enjoyed this podcast. I think it's going to add a lot of value to people who are just in the beginning phase of their property journey and actually seeing what's possible. If anyone wants to reach out to yourself, how would they get in touch? What's your handles?
Yeah, so Properties by Guru on Instagram. My I've made a YouTube, no videos yet, but it's obviously it will be coming soon.
Yeah.
So it's the same handle, Properties by Guru there. Anyone can reach out on Instagram. I'm quite active on there. DM me about either auctions, essays, my experience with, like legal packs, for example, or even my next projects, because look, at the end of the day, I want to provide as much value as possible with the amount of stuff I've learned in the past 9 months. I think I'm always teaching the person who's, let's say, 6 months behind me. Now that's the way I look at it. Now, for me and you, we know what a BRR is. However, most people not in the property world wouldn't know what that is. You've summed it up quite nicely there. Buy low, refurbish it, rent it out, and then refinance your money back out. And when I first heard this strategy, I thought it was illegal.
Yeah.
I thought
Right.
it was.
But we're not cowboys, we're ethical investors, right? So we're taking rundown properties that are good for no one and people that are living there, and they're in squalor. It's damp all over the walls. They've got no kitchen. It's shocking. So people like me and you come in there, fix it up, make it a really nice home to live, and the tenants are genuinely like proud to live there. And I genuinely think that is a service for the greater good.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the way I do my projects is if I would live there. So if I'm looking around the property and I don't like, how it looks, or how it, let's say if the doors are, a little bit grimy, I'll change the doors. Let's say if the lights don't look the best, I'll change the lights. So if I wouldn't live there, I wouldn't give it to my tenant. I think that's the ethics behind it.
Yeah.
So I think it goes to the point where we've talked about before regarding, landlords. Now, look, with me and you, we look at a house that needs a full reno. No one's going to buy it. For example, a first-time buyer won't be able to buy it because they can't get a mortgage on it. Another person, no one can tenant it because it's not in a tenanted situation. It's not liable to be tenanted. So what we would do, we would go there, we could buy it quickly, whether it's cash or bridge, or if it can be mortgaged. We would refurb it, get our team in, make it to the best standard it could be, with all the gas safety checks and electrical safety checks, and then we would just put a nice family in. I mean, at the end of the day, we're helping the housing crisis at the moment. Even with these two auction purchases that I've got, they were both needing a full refurb. Now, someone who wants to buy it would either be investors, right? And someone who, could see the vision within the property. So I saw the vision. I saw, okay, it's next to schools, it's next to hospitals, it's next to unis. I believe it could be perfect for my end user. And it's the way you do the refurb as well. I originally, it was a shower in my Hartlepool project, and I put a bath in, a P-shaped bath. The reason why I did that is because I know that I want kids in the property. I've made it very kid friendly. And there's two schools nearby. Now, if I didn't think about these things, then you wouldn't get the end user, and you wouldn't get it tenanted so quickly as I've done.
That's right. Well, mate, thank you very much for coming on today. I hope everyone listening has got a lot of value from yourself. And make sure to reach out to Gurus if you're listening still, guys. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.